Hello everyone. So I wanted to make a quick video to show how to make a graph. So there's a previous video that I had of how to make a graph, but that was just kind of like the general graph. But this is going to be more of a tutorial on how to make a really pretty graph with your Project 1 information. So you'll see I have myself set up here. I'm using Google Sheets. I personally prefer Google Sheets. I think that it makes prettier graphs than say Excel, and I think it's a little bit more user-friendly, but you can do the same process in Excel. If anyone needs me to do a video like this for Excel, please reach out and let me know and I will. But for sake of this not being a 15-minute video, I'm just going to keep it for Sheets. So first things first here, you'll see I have my 5 columns, right? So I have my date, temperature, dew point temperature, and relative humidity and precipitation. So we're not going to put all 4 units or all 4 variables into one graph. We don't have enough axes to do so. So we're going to do one graph with these first 3 variables and then a second graph with precipitation. So the idea here is to get us something that looks, something that looks kind of like, if this will allow me to actually select this dang thing and move it around, 2 graphs, one that looks kind of like this one, and a precipitation graph which kind of looks like this one here. So I have all my information, and first things first, we need to select our data. So I'm going to click on the letter A, and I can either click and drag all the way over to D, or click on A, hold the Shift key and click D, and then it selects all of that data. And then you're going to go up to Insert and Chart. And this is where things are going to get a little bit dicey. So you'll notice here when I now have all of this selected, that doesn't look like a correct graph, right? So what I want to do is just change the chart type, and we're going to have to do some modifications here and delete some things. So I want to do a combo chart, and I tried to go through this earlier, so I'm hoping that what I did. So what I'm doing is now removing all of the series here. Okay, so now I have some things that I want on this graph. You kind of have to like delete the date part because it for some reason thinks that that's part of the various axes. It's very annoying. Anyway, so notice how I deleted temperature and date, and now I'm left with dew point, temperature, and relative humidity. So I'm going to also remove dew point temperature. So now I'm just looking at relative humidity. But I want to add back in dew point and temperature because I want relative humidity to be the one that's the bar part of the graph. So now I'm going to add series, add temperature, add series, add dew point temperature. So now I have all the variables that I want on the graph. But we need to do one really, really, really big thing, right? We need to put our relative humidity onto the opposite vertical axis as temperature and dew point. There are 2 different units. Temperature and dew point temperature are in degrees Fahrenheit, whereas relative humidity is a percentage. Right, so we're just going to select the relative humidity part here. Let me just move my face over for a second. So we're in our chart editor portion. So I've selected the series of relative humidity, and right now it's on the left axis. So I'm just going to click that drop-down menu and scooch around over to the right axis. So now my relative humidity is on my right axis here. From here, what I would suggest, and if you don't like this combo bar graph situation, all you got to do is go over to the setup and change things to maybe you want to do a line chart, but I don't know, for some reason how I have this selected, it's not going to, I don't know, if I try to do temperature and precipitation, it's going to change everything. Or if I try to click the suggested one, it's going to look at 2 variables that I don't want to look at. So I'm going to keep things the way they are for now, but you could say, oh, okay, well now I want to go to that, and for some reason that's what's on there, but I could, if you really wanted to do just a line chart, you can just remove precipitation and add on, I don't know, again, I don't know why it's not allowing me to add other things on. This is where it gets kind of dicey for whatever reason. So I don't want precipitation, and I don't know why it changed things. So I'm just going to delete this graph now and start over. So it can be kind of annoying. Making graphs is a tricky thing and can be a little annoying, and that's why I'm making a separate video here. So again, I tried to do the column chart, but I'm actually going to try and do a combo chart here. And I'm going to once again just remove pretty much everything. And I want relative humidity to be kind of at the top. So I'm going to remove temperature and remove dew point temperature. So right now, again, all I have is relative humidity. And add back temperature and dew point temperature. Slap relative humidity over onto the right axis. And then from here, what you can do before you add in all your titles and whatnot, from here you can play with the color scheme. So notice how with this color scheme, it looks okay, I guess. What you could do is, right now relative humidity is blue, then you could go to temperature and you could make the lines a bit thicker so they're just a bit more pronounced. If you're just really feeling this color scheme, that is entirely up to you. And then you can play around. But you can play around also with the color of relative humidity. Maybe that blue isn't really doing it for you, so you go to fill color and say you want to do green instead, or maybe that might not be a good selection for someone who's colorblind, so maybe you want to do black or something like that. That kind of looks like after you click off of it, right, it looks kind of wonky. So just playing around with some colors that look nice to your eyes, and if you get feedback from your peer review partner that, hey, that actually doesn't quite look very good, maybe suggest changing up the colors. So some other things that you can add, of course, are trend lines, which are kind of a fun thing to add. If you want, you don't have to, of course, but that could be helpful in terms of helping you discuss, how the temperature has changed throughout the seasons. But we're 100% really not done, because my biggest thing here, of course, is that we need titles. So you want a good descriptive title that tells the reader exactly what they're looking at. So I wouldn't have to play any guessing games. Right, so that's my main chart title, and you could even add a subtitle. So here we're looking at temperature, dew point, and relative humidity, right? And then for my horizontal axis title, we need date, right? Oh, and we also need to add values for that as well. So I need to remember how to do that. Then we're going to go to vertical axis title. So this is the one that's on the left. So this is temperature, or really you could just do degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit. I'm totally going to not spell that right. So you can tell that it's not spelled right because the red dashed lines, right? So if I just, oh, of course, it's not going to tell me exactly what it is to change to. That's not how you spell Fahrenheit at all. But for the moment, so I'm not looking things up and making this a really long video. We're just gonna move on. But yeah, so everything's all labeled. And then for our legend is here, right? That's great. Horizontal axis. It would be, I would like some labels here. That would be great. I don't know why it's not including the labels. So that's a delightful thing. And kind of annoying, but we do know it's through the dates, so that is good. So what if I clicked on horizontal axis? Major ticks, maybe? Anyway, so this is kind of the baseline, right? It would be nice if the stupid dates would actually make themselves known on the bottom here, so we would know what we're going for. But this is just a nice baseline graph. And then to create for the first things, and then to create another graph, you could just move this guy over to create a graph for precipitation. Just click off the data, and then you're going to select date. hold the Command button and select column E for precipitation and do the same thing. So go to Insert, Chart, and then you'll do the same stuff here, but since we're just working with one aspect, you just have to really just modify the title and the axes titles, and if you want, play around with the color schemes and stuff like that. The big thing here, the big take-home point with this whole project is when you're looking at this graph and trying to analyze it, you may notice, especially the reason why I like this in particular is because you can see where my dew point temperature and my air temperature, when they're really far apart, my relative humidity is also really low. When temperature and dew point are really far apart, my relative humidity is also quite low. Where they're close together, my relative humidity is relatively high, right? And that's the case for a lot of San Francisco's winter weather. But because there's that big gap that you can see really nicely, that's what I'm hoping that you will also see in your graphs. It will, of course, depend on your location. Say you pick somewhere like Miami where it's actually relatively humid most of the time. Then it might be a little bit more difficult to discern this pattern, but we can approach that bridge when we get there, okay? So if you have any questions on this, or if your software acts up in whatever, for whatever reason, please just let me know and reach out directly so that I can help you in the moment. If I don't know what's going on, then it's hard for me to help you, and it's hard for me to debug the software unless I'm kind of literally alongside you, helping you. So with that, I'll see y'all on the flippy floppy. Have a good rest of whatever time of day you are watching this. Thanks.